And there we go. So let me introduce everyone, and then we're going to dive right into the presentation. So I'm Anna Murphy, the Director of Marketing here at LiveSchool. I met Jaimi through a survey that we did, and I just loved her response in terms of how she was measuring success with school culture changes. And she talked a lot about house points and, rebuilding that culture of the school, especially coming back from, being in person or hybrid. And I think it's interesting too, because this is your first full year even at the school in person, like you as an educator there. So I'm really excited to have you here. You're the assistant principal at McDougle Middle School. And so, yeah, but before we do that, let me also introduce Spencer, who is also on the call repping LiveSchool. He is a former PBIS leader from Mississippi and then New Orleans. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience as well?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Spencer. Like Anna said, I'm the Director of Partnerships here. I'm a former teacher and former PBIS coordinator in New Orleans Public Schools. I was the guy who was printing the physical bulldog bucks at my school and passing them out to teachers and trying to get people really bought in and excited about PBIS. And it was really hard, and we didn't have a lot of great data. So I was super excited to join the LiveSchool team not too long ago. And yeah, excited to be with all of you today. And feel free to shoot me any questions you have. I'll be in the chat throughout the webinar. Thanks so much.
Awesome. And so now let's turn it over to you, Jaimi. I mean, because speaking of like printing paper bucks, I know y'all did that. You've done it in the past. Now, speaking of data too, like you have that. So let's hear more about your background and just dive into the presentation then.
Sure. So I was a classroom teacher for 15 years, and I would say about 12 out of 15. We did use the PBIS system, and we had chomps because we were the Gators. And, I used probably a million different ways to try to categorize how I was giving them out and try to create my own data. And then I also know from being on committee meetings in schools that there were some teachers who were not using it because they were not going to do that level of maintenance of these little pieces of paper, and maybe just not as motivated to figure out why they were handing them out, who they were handing them out to. But I did that in my classroom, and I found great success with it. And then when I left the classroom and became an administrator, I went from elementary to middle school, and it is not alive and well in middle school. It was a very different situation, but kids still like praise. This is what, motivates most human beings. And so we felt that there was a need to have some sort of way to motivate students and going away from those pieces of paper. The first year that I was here as administrator was 2019, so we didn't make it all the way through the year, but we did use the Ron Clark House system. And so we were having some success at being able to reward points, but the reporting systems and the data we were getting from it really weren't doing what I wanted it to do as an administrator. I wanted to be able to see what teachers were handing out a lot of points, and then cross-reference that with behavior data to see, are they referring more or less students? Am I able to see what students are kind of flying under the radar and not getting awarded points? Do we need to put more attention in their direction? And I just wasn't getting what I needed out of that program. And so we went away for the pandemic. We came back, and I was really dedicated to researching some solution, and came across that LiveSchool had opened up their house points aspect of their programming. And it was meeting a lot of the needs I needed. We always try to use data to inform our practices and to really pinpoint where we need to get things improved. And I have been able to see what teachers are giving out a lot of points, ask them how it's working in their classroom. I've also had a lot of those teachers present at staff meetings about how they're using the program. One aspect of this program, if you haven't kind of fiddled around with it, is that there's a randomizer. So a lot of teachers have up the program. You can see what students are earning points. And then as you're, just doing some Q&A in your instruction, you can use the name randomizer to call on students. And they're having great success with some of the features that are built in. And this awarding points isn't really becoming a separate entity that they're worrying about. It's really embedded in their instruction. So a lot of the teachers who have bought in are seeing great success with student participation, with being able to motivate students through points. And then on the flip side of that, the teachers who maybe aren't buying in as much, I'm really relying on those teachers to help lead professional development sessions. And using the data from LiveSchool, I can have some one-on-one conversations with teachers about aspects that they can start, promoting more in their classroom using LiveSchool. So it is just really helping us pinpoint where change needs to happen, praise teachers who are using it, praise students who are doing what we need them to do. It's really been a key feature of driving that school culture. Anna, do you want me to go through the slides here?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start hopping through the slides then.
So that's a little overview. Sorry if it was a little wordy. So we are using the house point system within LiveSchool, and we have all of our 750 kids divided into 4 houses. The student and staff are divided into houses, and they are in that same house all the way through middle school, so 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And we have little competitions. So we start in an advisory. I know in the winter we had advisories make a snowman, a snow person, and they had to display it. And there was some voting that went on, and the winning houses got points. So not only are we using this to promote student engagement, we're also having friendly competition in the school. And it's just making things fun and creating that sense of community among the students. And then at each quarter, we do have a celebration to celebrate the house that has the most points. And then cumulatively, at the end of the year, we'll have a house championship. And for our school, what that means is that the house that wins, we decorate the cafeteria in that house's colors for the entire year. So a lot of this is not on buying a ton of rewards or anything with kids. It is really more just that pride that comes with earning the points and with your house having the most.
And someone actually had a question that I think is a great follow-up to this slide is, are students in an advisory in the same house, or is it cross advisory?
It is in the same house. So all of our advisories are built by grade level in the same house, and they have the same, their advisor is also a member of their house. And that advisor stays with them for that 3 years. So that's another aspect that we're using to have that school-wide community and that sense of belonging that we need to create. And then we do, there's a lot of planning. Siblings are not necessarily in the same house. So we have not done that intentionally, but I have heard of models where people do include that. We do a lot of intentional planning at the beginning of the year, especially when you have staff members leave or new staff members come to kind of complement the house. You're going to have some of those staff members that are much more excited about these competitions and have much more buy-in. And so we balance the houses to really make it the best situation possible. And then we have a variety of factors for the students. We have a dual language Spanish program here. So we have a balance of male, female, of dual language students, of, just we're trying to get the best mix on each house. So I work with our student services department to help balance that all out. And one of our most fun events at the year is we have a Meet the Advisor event each year. Our PTA helps us out. They, grill some hot dogs and parents donate chips and everything. And they get a little piece of paper. The rising 6th graders get a piece of paper letting them know what house they're in. And so I think having that build up is huge and just promotes that excitement for it. And then also the 7th and 8th graders who are in that house come to that event and, get really excited to see the students that are just then learning about their house. And they are in the same house every year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to confirm. As someone asked in the chat, it's mixed grade level and they stay and they grow with that house every year.
So one aspect of LiveSchool that I loved is that, we had started, like I said, with the Ron Clark system houses. And so we already had names established, but you can really name your house any color or any name that you want to with LiveSchool. We went ahead and stayed with ours. So these are our houses. We have Altruismo and Harmonia and Isabindi and Rever. And the kids really love, we'll have a house color day and you get a point for wearing your house color. And so the colors have become a huge part of it. And in LiveSchool, that color also is on the classroom display. So when all the names are displayed, the color is outlined on that student's name. So you can see, and the students can see what houses are getting points throughout the lesson. We have some tenets for our school, which is points are earned, not given, and that any student staff member can award points. And that is where I think you can get that whole school buy-in, is that our TAs can give points, our custodians can give points, people at the front office give points, because you have that, you can do it, web-based on the computer, you can do the app, like people are giving out points. It doesn't just have to be the classroom teachers. But points are never taken away in our system. And we don't let points be given if students ask for them. If they say, can I have some points for picking up this thing they dropped, then we don't let them get points for that. We say, well, maybe next time you do it. But it is very much like the Harry Potter system, and some of those kids really buy into it with that similarity. And
I just have to ask too, where did these names of the houses come from? They're amazing.
These are, we really did want to have, multicultural names embedded in them. And so these were some of the names from that Ron Clark system that we adopted because they had strong meanings to them and everything. But they, like, I have also checked with Ron Clark, we can continue to use them as long as we don't try to sell any merchandise or anything with the names on them, because they are just words that are of that language origin. So it is fun to make the names something with a strong meaning that you can go over. So in our advisory, the first week of school, we do go over those meanings, like this is altruismo, and this is our symbol, and this is what it means. And the kids really do buy into all of that kind of fanfare that goes along with it. With a committee of teachers, we had a point distribution chart that we created so that we didn't have some houses giving 25 points for picking up a pencil someone dropped and some people giving 1. So we categorized how we would give out points and how you can kind of see how they progress in the amount. We use iReady at our school as one of our academic diagnostics. And so students who show growth, we'll go through that and we'll give points to houses for students who show growth. We are a middle school, so at the end of every season, there's an MVP chosen for an athletic team. So whatever house they're in, their team, their house gets points for them winning MVP. And teachers really love to use it just on those daily kind of Kahoot or Quizlet quizzes they will give in their class. The winner of that will get points for their house. And then we also do some house point fun things in our staff meetings for the staff and just day to day. So if there's a duty spot, we'll pick a day of the week and say, okay, everyone who is on time for duty is going to earn points for their house. It's really hard sometimes to get staff members to complete their PDPs and things on time. So everyone who turns it in by the due date will earn points for their house. A genius bar is how we do some of our staff development where teacher leaders will present. And so if they do that, especially some of those teachers who I want them to tell how they're using LiveSchool, they'll get points for their house as well. And then sometimes we just have minute to win it type of competitions during staff meetings. And winners will earn points for their house as well. And we just put those all right in LiveSchool. So it's a really easy way. In LiveSchool, you can give the students points and it automatically goes to their house, or you can actually give the house points. So there's both ways to do that.
And this is actually the second webinar we've done where the presenter has talked about including staff and getting points as well. And I know when I was teaching, like I would have loved that type of motivation or recognition, because so much of the work I did just felt like unrecognized, right? And so that's really interesting that you bring that up. I just had to call that out because it's not the like quote unquote traditional approach, but I've seen a lot more schools adopting that, where they're getting staff involved in receiving the points.
Right. We got to make school fun for the kids and for the staff. And then we have the wheel at our school. So we just bought, I mean, I think it was $50 on Amazon, and it is like the wheel and The Price is Right, just a smaller version. And we were able to write different point amounts on it. And so the students vote for who our staff of the month is by a Google form and advisory. And so whoever those staff members of the month are, they get to spin the wheel and points go to the house. And every teacher has to have a student of the month on a spreadsheet. And so we go around to the grade level hallways, and it really takes us about 15 minutes per grade level. And for our administrative team, it's really nice for us to be able to be involved in that positive interaction with the student, because sometimes we're not. And so we go to the hallways, and all the students that were nominated for student of the month from their teacher get to spin the wheel, and those points go to their house as well. So that's another positive reinforcement aspect of it. And if you notice, we're really not doing a lot of tangible rewards at our school. We're doing points and recognition and praise instead of candy and chips and things like that. So makes us feel a little bit better in the way that we're spreading that positive around the building. So I am a huge fan of the app, and I use that a lot. So and every time anyone in our staff puts any points in whatever way they prefer, it goes up to we have a big television screen at the front office. And honestly, the highlight of my day a lot of times is students coming through in passing periods and looking up and saying, oh, Isabendi's in the lead now, or how did Al Turismo get so many points today? And so that has been a highlight of my day, to see kids. I think they reroute how they go to class sometimes so that they can see where the points are displayed. And we're actually looking into some other areas around the school to see how we can have it displayed in multiple areas. And I'll be happy to share the presentation. I think Anna already has it. It can definitely be shared.
Yeah, I'll include that in a follow-up email, because this is fantastic. Like, just to take this and even share it out with your own school.
And then the PD that LiveSchool gave us to launch this with our staff was super easy. We were able to meet with them, use their materials, and then have a staff development meeting. And, I think we stopped every 10 minutes in our PD to do some sort of minute to win it sort of competition and give out points so they could see how easy it was, and had a lot of fun with that. So I think that helped with the buy-in. But the materials they give you to launch this with your staff is extremely easy, and it was a joy to use. It was good stuff. So we also have some leaders that we're trying to build. And so we have some house leaders that we embed in that. We picked our 3 8th grade house leaders this year based on the data from last year. So even though we were hybrid last year, we did have some data. It was not LiveSchool data, but we did have some data. And so we had them be our house leaders. So the kids, you can use that for the following year to plan the kids who are getting the most points. They could potentially be your house leaders. And when you do have celebrations and things, you can call on them to help lead those events. We do have our leaders chosen by staff and not elected, because we want to make sure that they're students who have really earned it and who are not just our popular kids. And then as much as possible, we try to have these student leaders lead house meetings. So once a month, we have a house meeting. We did not have them at the beginning of this year because we were trying not to pack hundreds of kids into a room. But as things have gotten a little bit better, we have these house meetings once a month, and these student leaders lead them. They've created chants for their house. Some of them have a secret handshake they've developed. And so I really love how it's making some kids who maybe wouldn't have a sense of belonging feel like, at least I might not be in a club or a sport, but I'm a member of the River House. And so it's been really powerful for us. On On Fridays, so our advisory is mostly a social emotional curriculum, but on Fridays we make it house centric, where they do community building, would you rather, type questions where they're just community building. We try to have monthly whole house meetings, and the kids love that. They love being able to move to their house meeting location just because it's an event. It's something exciting to look forward to. And then we do provide some time during our staff meetings for staff members who are in the same house to get together, reflect, look at that data, and see what are some things that they could do going forward to improve handing out points, recognizing kids who are maybe not getting points, but they are doing a good job in their class. So how am I missing this child? And we do embed sometimes house points into behavior intervention contracts for students who might be struggling, that we're going to try to give them more points and see if that improves behavior. And end of each quarter, the first year we did it, we had these great assemblies, but again, it's a lot of people in the same location, so we have not done it, but we will get back to it next year, where they had games and chants, and that's where you reveal your quarterly championship winner, and then end of the year, the cumulative points for the overall house champion. And our spirit weeks that we have one each quarter. We always embed points being given. So if it's silly hat day, if a student participates, then they get points towards their house. And that has increased participation in those spirit weeks. So we do evaluate it. We look periodically. We conduct staff and student surveys. We look at that data collection to see if this is being effective. I was just sharing with Anna before we met that we're averaging about 48,000 points a quarter. And so we always like to tweet out, that means 48,000 positive things happen. So even in those weeks where it seems like it was a rough week at school, you can look up at those house points and say, positive things are happening here, and we need to be proud of that. And then we try to communicate our findings in our house standings with staff at staff meeting, and we'll reward the staff member who's giving out the most points and recognize them at staff meetings. And then just use that information to kind of reflect and plan for the future of the program. I think that's where we're at there. So that's kind of how we're running at McDougle. It is not perfect. We don't have every staff member using points just yet. But as we get some people on board, then we can work on trying to motivate some of the staff to do so. Some of the kids are more motivated by the points than others. So you're always going to have that, but we can keep looking at the data and planning and trying to improve as we go on. And I know that that is possible with this application, because we weren't able to really pinpoint where we needed to grow before.
And that's actually, so one of the questions, I've gotten a few direct messages then that I wanted to open up to you is like, looking at that data, like what are some of the decisions you've been able to make with that data? Like how has it helped you strategically?
So we have had some staff members who really weren't participating. And so when we did our differentiated professional development, our genius bars, we call them, we were able to take that group of staff members and kind of have a heart-to-heart, like, what's not working here? You're not using the program. Is it that you don't understand how to use it? Did you not come to the first PD, and so you're not aware of everything it can do? And so we're able to use that. There are a lot of kids who are doing great things that have 0 points. And so one of the biggest ways that I'm using that data is to say, okay, so we need to try and make sure this kid feels like they're being appreciated, and not just expect them to keep doing what they're doing, but really highlight them and give them some validation and some praise for doing that. And in PLCs, teachers are going, oh my gosh, I can't believe that Anna has no points this week. She's like participating like crazy. So I've got to be more mindful. So I think a lot of times this data is just really bringing awareness to our staff that we wouldn't otherwise have.
And we just had another really great question come in. For your most challenging students, does it ever backfire? How do you address those students who intentionally subvert that system?
I will tell you, I'm really not trying to look at this with rose-colored glasses, but if I have one of my most challenging students get to spin the wheel, it is like magic. So, this might be a kid that's never nominated for Student of the Month by a teacher, but if I work into their behavior plan that they can come spin the wheel if they don't get, an office referral this week, they'll work for it. And just that, spinning the wheel and earning the points for their house has been really effective. I will say some kids have not been motivated by it, but I don't think it has ever made it worse. It's never been something that has backfired on me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And another question that came in was, how have parents received this and are they involved at all?
We need to do a better job of that. So that's a great question. The parents know about the houses because they're at this back to school event and they see the kids have it. They see in our newsletters that it's a spirit week, please wear your house color. I've never asked a kid, what house are you? And have them say, I don't know. They all know their house. And so I'm sure that, if parents ask about it, they know what house they're in. But we do need to do a better job with parents about that. The one thing I have seen parents interact with is our Twitter page, where we will have students spinning the wheel, where we will have the house champion announced, and parents will comment on that Twitter page and say, oh, this is so amazing. I can't believe that many points are, being given to students through this quarter. So I will see it through comments of the parents who are interacting with our social media pages, but that is something that we probably need to do a little bit more interaction with the parents.
I love that community building on social media, though. I mean, I'm a former educator, now I'm in marketing, obviously love social media, but it's such a powerful place to connect with your different community members and sometimes alumni too, even that are looking back and following you and seeing that. I think it's such a powerful tool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Tyler, this might be actually a better question for Spencer. Spencer, if you want to hop on, can individual point reports be printed for each student weekly? Which then kind of brings me into, I was going to have Spencer share his screen too and kind of show that dashboard that you were mentioning, Jaimi, because I think it brings it to life of what that looks like. So yeah. Spencer.
You may stop sharing now.
Sure. Yeah, let's do that. See.
Hey everyone. Yes. So individual point reports for each student weekly. Let me go over that one and then I'll show the House Points platform. So Tyler, we actually just developed a special feature for this called our weekly recap feature. We're really excited about it because it serves this dual purpose. One, it's a weekly reflective tool for students. Let me share my screen and Anna, I'm not able to share my screen.
Let's see. All right, try now.
Fantastic. Great. Okay, so this is what the weekly recap looks like. So this is going to go out to all of your students each week, and it's going to show them everything great they did this week. So everything they earn points for is right here. And there's even a timeline so you can see every point and every teacher that gave them a point at what time of the day. So it's meant to build awareness for students around their behaviors. And a lot of our partners like to use it for goal setting as well. Now, the dual benefit of a report like this, which also shows the point balance for students, by the way, too, is that we can also send it to parents every week. So what our partners are telling us is that this is essentially a positive phone call home to parents every week. And I know from being a former teacher that when I would make positive phone calls home, sometimes parents were surprised. They don't get them enough. We would love for teachers to make more positive phone calls home, but that's a lot to expect out of teachers. So this has been a way for us to support both teachers and admin with a feature like the weekly recap. So I hope that answers that question, Tyler. And then Anna, you mentioned going over the House Points feature. Is that right?
Yes, just so people can see it. But there was a question related to that. What is spent for points?
Oh, that's how many points they spent that week. So if they bought a reward, let's say it was 30 points to go to the Fun Friday event, then it would show up here if they had used 30 points to do that. So it's all about redeeming rewards. Cool. Okay. So for house points, it's going to show up right here. Now, whenever you give a point in the platform, like Jaimi already mentioned, it's tracked both to the individual student and to the house. So our partners love putting up this dashboard specifically around school because it shows all the kids like which house is in the lead. And whenever a student gets a point, there will be a dinging sound and their name will show up on this dashboard. These are updating in real time. And actually, better way for me to do it. Let me just split my screen here and I'll show you what it looks like in real time. And we'll actually give a point out and so you can see. Okay. So I go to points. I'm going to give a point to this student for raising their hand, and the blue house gets a point immediately.
So this is what Jaimi was talking about, right, Jaimi? Like you have this dashboard displayed on that screen. So students are seeing in real time as their house members are getting points for them and getting really excited, right? Because they're seeing that rack up in that competition.
Yep,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah, a word we hear frequently about houses is camaraderie. It's building that camaraderie between students and staff because they're competing as a team for something.
Mm-hmm. And it's fun because I think some students who maybe aren't likely to be friends and supporting each other when they're on the same house, they are. And so it's kind of building some relationships with students who might not do so otherwise.
And then we had a couple questions. I'll start with one for you, Jaimi. And we might need follow-up on this one, but they're asking, do you use a communication tool to ensure that double dipping doesn't happen?
So we were worried about that, and we really have not had any concerns about it. There have been some times before where all of a sudden I see a house is gone in the lead like 2,000 points, and I'll go back and look and see that a teacher accidentally put something in multiple times, and so I can adjust that. And usually it's an honest mistake, but I don't see any kind of double dipping or any sabotage happening. People are usually staying pretty honest and true to the mission and vision of us, using the houses to build this community and not to cheat or win at anything.
And then another question that just came in that Spencer answered in the chat, but I'll open it up too. Someone's just wondering if you can have more than 4 houses. Yes, you opted to have 4 houses. In LiveSchool, you can have up to 12, all of them each being customizable. So we see some with a lot more. And then someone else was wondering too about the customizability of the platform to really reach your goals. I don't know, Spencer, if you want to touch on that for a minute or so.
Yes, I think the customization is probably the most important part of the platform because that's where you determine what are the key priorities for your school, what behaviors should be driving the actions in LiveSchool, because y'all are the experts on that. We're just the system to house all of it and streamline it. So it is totally customizable to every school's goals and expectations around school culture.
And I will say for those of you that are middle school, we had team concept. And so we had 2 teams per grade level. So we went to 4 houses because really it's 2 teams, but we just have turned them into houses. So each teacher teaches 2 houses, just like they would have taught, a team. And they just stay with that all through middle school.
Awesome. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss any other questions. If there are any other questions, drop them in the chat and we will get to them. Let me see. I believe there was one up here. Oh, okay. Jennifer wants to know, let's start. So how easy is it to find a student name to give points in real time? I see you nodding, Jaimi, and then maybe Spencer, if you want to share your screen.
It's super easy, but Spencer, take it away. Super easy.
Yes. Here, I'll share my screen and we'll take a look at what that looks like. I will also say we built our platform around the core belief that if it's not super easy to give points, it's just not going to happen. It needs to be a super low lift for teachers. So I'm a teacher or a staff member. If I'm a teacher, all my rosters are right here on the left-hand side. If I'm a staff member or an admin, I'll just search for students right here. I'll select the student, select the behavior I'm rewarding them for, and that's it. So there's that dinging sound for the student, and then that other ding was for the house. That got the point too.
And this is for phones too, not just on the laptop, correct?
Any mobile device. Yeah, we have partners using phones, tablets, iPads, a wide variety. Yeah.
And then another question was, does the setup work for elementary, and wondering visuals for non-readers or translations as well, and what that looks like?
Good question. We don't currently have any translation capabilities, but we do work with a lot of schools who have a high ELL population, whose administrators do find a way to work around that. It is also something we want to be more supportive about in terms of catering to those families and communities. And then the other part of the question was elementary, right? Yes, and actually, particularly with elementary students, we find that dinging sound is really motivating. So whenever that ding happens, it is the cue for students that something great has happened. We are celebrating somebody, even if it's just for a short moment.
Awesome. And then Jennifer was asking if there's a view for that interface for mobile. I think I can share a screenshot. I don't know if you can pull that up on your laptop. So it would be a little challenging, but I can share a screenshot for sure for that. Great. Wonderful. Are there any other questions? I know everyone on this call is super busy at the end of the school year and assessments and everything. So I just really want to thank you all so much for your time. I'll be sending out a link to the recording and the slides later today. But if you have any questions, please feel free to email us back, and I'll make sure that your question gets to the right person, be it Jaimi or Spencer or myself. And we're just super, super thankful, Jaimi, that you took the time to come and chat with us. So thank you.
And I'm going to put my email address in the
Yes.
chat box. Y'all, please feel free to shoot me an email if you'd like to schedule a time to talk more about your goals and priorities for next school year. Would love to learn more about them.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.